Emergency managers continuously talk about your ability to sustain yourself, and that's the kind of thing folks need to think about when they're making their decision. If you feel that you could sustain yourself and stay here, you may feel differently than someone who says, I don't have those kinds of abilities and resources. Everybody has to make their own decision about evacuating and doesn't need to wait to be told to evacuate. We really want people to have as much information as they can to just make the best decision for themselves. All right, in trying to provide all the information we can, especially for the residents of Virginia Beach, certainly a coastal area. They are bracing for Irene this midday, and we learned this morning that there was going to be a meeting of our emergency managers in Virginia Beach. So we sent our David Culver to go there. So many people had been asking us on Facebook whether the resort city would see an evacuation. And David, we know you are fresh out of that meeting. So what's your take on what was discussed today in regards to that question?
Well, Carrie, I'll tell you right now, that meeting's actually still going on as we speak. It started around noon. It's included all the Virginia Beach emergency managers, so they're behind closed doors right now meeting and discussing several issues Irene related, but two of those main issues that folks are concerned with, evacuations as well as designating emergency shelters. Now, before the meeting, we caught up with Mark Marchbank. He is the deputy coordinator for Virginia Beach Emergency Management, and he told me something quite interesting. He said that he does not believe a complete evacuation of the city of Virginia Beach is possible. In fact, he says that's because of logistics as well as just the mentality of several of the residents who say, quite frankly, they're not going anywhere even if there is a storm. Now, he broke down the process of what an evacuation order would mean and how that would come about. Here's what he had to say.
The way we would do that, we sort of depend a lot on voluntary compliance. We'll convey the severity with that type of recommendation. We'll suggest evacuations. So when we're pretty seriously considering the situation, we'll probably raise to what is a mandatory evacuation, just to establish the fact that we do consider it a very serious thing, and we would like a lot of people to self-evacuate in terms of assessing their risk and making the appropriate decision on their own.
But that order to evacuate hasn't come yet. For those strolling the oceanfront, visiting from out of town, it's a little frightening.
So we've been listening to the news for North Carolina, but we're concerned about whether we should leave, now, tomorrow morning, or what.
All right, so I'm in town, I'm visiting, I'm not from Virginia Beach, booked a room at the hotel for the week. Should I probably be thinking about getting out of here?
I think you should be monitoring the weather very closely. I think there's plenty of time to make that decision to leave the area. We're not in that catastrophic event where they're going to face large traffic things.
Residents like Jim tell us they already have reservations outside of Hampton Roads. He's just waiting until Friday night before he decides to leave.
When you lose power for 5 days, the inconvenience of no toilet, no water, no nothing, you might as well be somewhere else. So we moved to Danville, Virginia the last time, and we called in for 5 days.
Are you expecting people to be leaving now, even though there hasn't been an order?
No, I wouldn't say. I would think my big thing is to monitor the news and realize that my current perceptions of the storm is based upon those forecasts. At a certain point, we'll make a decision. What are we preparing for? Are we preparing for a tropical storm, less than tropical storm? Or if we're going to prepare for a hurricane, we'll start those preparations. But we're always going to be cognizant of the timeline and the expected conditions that are going to go with that event.
Again, that was Mark Marchbank that you heard talking there, the Deputy Coordinator of Virginia Beach Emergency Management. He, along with several other officials, are right now meeting to discuss a possible evacuation order that has not come down yet. We are monitoring that meeting. We'll be in touch with you as soon as anything comes out of it. Meanwhile, I should mention, Carrie, that I was out and about talking with several residents in several neighborhoods right here by the ocean front. Most of them, I gotta say, tell me that they're bracing the storm no matter what, even if there is an evacuation order.
David, I want to ask you to clarify that statement, though, when the emergency manager said he did not think an evacuation of the resort city would be possible. Is he saying that he doesn't think the city could get people out who wanted to leave, or is he just saying because some people would not leave, it would make a complete evacuation impossible? Because we don't want people to hear something like that in the wrong context and think that they're going to be trapped if they would like to get out and get out in a timely manner.
He is saying that because of the mentality more than anything, but logistics play a role here too. He says because of the mentality of a lot of folks who don't want to leave, he said getting every single resident and visitor out of the resort city, a massive city, mind you, is impossible. And that was his word, impossible.
All right, thanks very much, David Culver. Again, drives home the message we're trying to get out this midday. We do still have 2 days left, basically, before it gets bad, and we want people to make smart decisions and make the most out of this precious time. Thanks, David.
Sure, thank you.